The galaxy whispered her name like a curse. No one knew her real face. No one dared to speak her true name. They only called her the Shadow Blade. She was the most wanted assassin in all known space. Empires feared her. Crime lords put endless bounties on her head. Whole armies were sent after her, and none ever returned. To meet her was to meet death itself. For years, she was a ghost, moving from planet to planet, never leaving a trace except blood and silence. She had no friends, no family, no home. She was a weapon, sharp, cold, and alone. But one night, everything changed. It began with a mission that went wrong. The Shadow Blade was hired to kill a high-ranking general of the Orion Syndicate. It was supposed to be simple. One strike, one kill, then disappear into the darkness again. But the Syndicate was waiting. A trap, a full ambush. Laser fire burned through the night sky as she fought her way out. She cut down soldiers like they were nothing. But even the deadliest assassin could bleed. A plasma bolt tore across her side, searing flesh and armor. Her ship, hit by heavy fire, spiraled out of control. She escaped, but barely. Her craft, broken and smoking, fell through the clouds of an unmarked planet on the edge of human space. Metal screamed as it tore through the atmosphere. She fought the controls, but the ship was too damaged. It slammed into a forest, fire and smoke trailing behind. The assassin crawled from the wreck, bleeding and broken. Her body ached, vision blurred, but she forced herself to stand. She had been hunted many times, but this time she knew she might not survive. Her instincts told her to keep moving, to vanish, to kill anyone who found her. But fate had other plans. Through the smoke and trees, a figure appeared, a man, human, simple clothes, worn boots, carrying an old lantern. His face was rough from years of work, his hands scarred but steady. He should have run. He should have screamed. He should have called the authorities the moment he saw her. Instead, he walked closer. The assassin raised her blade, even though her arm trembled. Her vision swam, but she was ready to kill. The man stopped just a few steps away. He looked at her wounds, at the blood soaking into the earth. His eyes did not show fear, only calm. "You'll die out here," he said, his voice quiet, steady. She snarled, her weapon shaking in her hand. "Leave, or I kill you." The man looked at her weapon, then looked back at her eyes. He did not move back. He did not run. He simply said, "Then kill me after I save you." The assassin froze. No one had ever spoken to her like that. No one had ever dared. In her entire life, people only begged for their lives or cursed her name. But this human, this weak, fragile creature, looked at her as if she were just another lost soul. Her body swayed. Darkness closed around her. She wanted to strike. She wanted to end him before he became a threat. But her strength failed. She collapsed. The man caught her before she hit the ground. His arms were strong, steady. He carried her through the forest, away from the burning wreck, away from the soldiers who might come searching. When she opened her eyes again, she was inside a small cabin. Wooden walls, a simple bed, the smell of burning wood from a fire. Her wounds were cleaned, bandages wrapped around her side. The pain was still sharp, but she was alive. The human sat at a table, sharpening an old hunting knife. When he saw her awake, he only said, "You should rest. Moving now will kill you." She reached for her blade, but it was not there. Her heart jumped. He had taken it. "You think you can keep me prisoner?" She hissed. The man shook his head. "If I wanted you gone, I would have left you in the forest." She stared at him, confused. None of this made sense. Why save her? Why not turn her in? A bounty on her head could make him rich beyond imagination. Any other human would have sold her out in seconds. Why? She demanded. Why save me? The man's eyes darkened like someone who had seen too much war, too much death. Because once, he said slowly, someone saved me. When I didn't deserve it, outside, the night was quiet. But above the clouds, in orbit, ships were already searching. Hunters, mercenaries, and soldiers all drawn by the promise of a reward for the Shadowblade's head. Soon they would find the wreck of her ship. Soon they would come for her. The assassin lay in the cabin, her eyes heavy but her mind racing. She did not understand this human, his calm, his strange kindness. His choice to risk his life for hers. She was the most dangerous being in the galaxy. And yet, for the first time in her life, she felt something she had never known before. Not fear, not anger, not death, but shelter. When she opened her eyes again, the fire was still burning in the corner of the cabin. The air smelled of smoke and pine wood. For a moment, she thought she had dreamed everything to crash. The wounds, the human, but no. The pain in her body was real. The bandages were real. And the stranger was still there. He sat near the fire, sharpening a long piece of metal with slow, careful strokes. Not a weapon of war, not alien tech, just a farming tool, turned into a blade. His hands moved with calm practice, like a man who had done this many times before. The assassin shifted, testing her body. Her side burned with fire, but she forced herself upright. Her eyes darted around. The cabin was small. Wooden walls. A table. Shelves filled with jars of food. No advanced tech. No screens. Just old human life. Her weapon. Where was her weapon? Her gaze locked on it. Her blade was lying on the table beside the man. Within his reach, her hand twitched. She could leap across the room, kill him, and take it back. Even weak, she could do it. The man looked up, ating her eyes. Calm. Always calm. If you move too fast, he said quietly, your stitches will tear. Her jaw clenched. You stitched me. He nodded. I kept you alive. She studied him. His clothes were rough, his hair untidy, his boots muddy. Everything about him screamed simple farmer. But his eyes were not simple. They were sharp, like someone who had seen battle before. Why? She asked again, her voice low, dangerous. Why help me? The man shrugged. Because leaving you to die out there would have made me no better than the hunters chasing you. She almost laughed, bitter and sharp. Hunters don't scare me. His gaze didn't change. Maybe not. But you were bleeding like any other creature. Even shadows can bleed. The word struck her harder than she expected. She was the Shadowblade, the galaxy's most feared assassin. Entire fleets chased her across the stars. Yet to this man, she was nothing more than a bleeding stranger in his woods. She hated that he was right. The night outside was too quiet. She could feel that hunters were near. Ships would find her wreck soon, maybe already. She should run. She should kill him, take supplies, and vanish before dawn. But her body betrayed her. Every breath was pain. Every movement was weakness. For the first time in years, she was trapped. The man stood, placed the sharpened tool back on the wall, and poured water into a metal cup. He set it on the table near her. Drink, he said. She narrowed her eyes. Poison. If I wanted you dead, he replied evenly, I would have let the blood do its work. She stared at him for a long time, then took the cup. The water was cold, fresh. It burned her throat as it went down, but she drank every drop. Hours passed in silence. The man moved about the cabin, cutting firewood, checking tools, doing simple chores as if nothing had changed. As if the most wanted killer in the galaxy was not sitting in his bed. It unsettled her more than a fleet of hunters ever could. Finally, she spoke again. "You know who I am." His back was to her. He didn't answer right away. Then he said, "I know enough." Her eyes narrowed. "Enough to fear me." He turned, his face unreadable. "Enough to see you're not as untouchable as the stories say." The assassin's chest tightened, though she didn't show it. She had lived her life as a ghost, a weapon, a legend. But this man saw through it. He saw weakness. He saw her. That night, as the fire burned low, she heard something outside. Engines, quiet, careful hunters. Her instincts roared awake. She grabbed for her weapon, forgetting it was still on the table. The man's hand moved first, sliding it toward her without a word. She blinked. He was giving it back. "You'll need it," he said simply. Her fingers closed around the blade. And for a moment, the cabin felt like the center of two worlds, her world of blood and shadows, and his world of quiet survival. Through the window, she saw them. Two figures moving through the trees. Slow, searching, she turned to the man. "You should run. They'll kill you if they know you helped me." The man shook his head. He picked up his old hunting knife and stepped to the door. "This is my land. I don't run from anyone." Her heart clenched in something she didn't understand. This man was not trained like her, not armored, not powerful. Yet he stood ready, calm as ever, facing hunters who killed for coin. The assassin rose, her wounds screaming in protest, but her blade steady in her hand. For the first time in her life, she was not fighting alone. The night was heavy with silence after the hunters were gone. Their bodies lay still in the dark forest, and the smell of burned metal and blood drifted through the air. The assassin wiped her blade, steady but weak, her wounds pulling at her strength. She turned to the man, expecting fear in his eyes. Instead, she found him calm as always, as if killing was nothing new to him. This man was no farmer. Not truly. Inside the cabin, the firelight flickered across his face. He moved with quiet precision, cleaning his knife, burning scraps of enemy gear to leave no trace. His hands were steady, practiced, too practiced. The assassin watched every motion, her sharp eyes taking in the details. How he stood with balance, weight always ready to shift. How his gaze never lingered on the fire, but scanned the shadows as if expecting an ambush. This was no ordinary man. Finally, she spoke. "You've killed before." He didn't answer at first. He set the knife aside and added wood to the fire. Only then did he look at her. "Yes," he said simply. Her voice was sharp, demanding. "Who were you? Soldier? Pirate? Mercenary?" None of those. His tone was flat, but something in his eyes darkened. "Don't lie to me." She leaned forward, her blade resting against her leg. "You move like a fighter. You watch like a hunter. You speak like a man who's seen too much death." He met her gaze, unshaken. "And you?" he asked softly. "Who are you beneath all that steel? A shadow? A ghost? Or just someone who forgot they were alive?" Her jaw tightened. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Not allies. Not enemies. Not anyone. She wanted to kill him right there, end the strange feelings he stirred in her. But she didn't. Her hand refused to move. Instead, she said, "You should have turned me in. You'd be rich. You could leave this broken world behind." The man gave a small, bitter smile. "I've already left enough behind." The assassin felt something stir in her chest. Curiosity, a dangerous thing. She had trained all her life to kill curiosity, to bury questions beneath blood. But with this man, she couldn't stop herself. "What happened to you?" she asked quietly. The man did not answer right away. He poured water into a pot, set it over the fire, and let the silence grow. At last he spoke, his voice low. There was a war. Long ago, a war humans should never have been part of. But we were. I fought in it. I lost too much in it. His words were simple, but the weight behind them was heavy. The assassin recognized its loss, the kind that never healed. She leaned back, studying him. So you ran. You hid here, on this small world, pretending to be a farmer. Not pretending, he said, just choosing a life where I could breathe. The assassin almost laughed. Breathe. There's no breathing in this galaxy. Only running. Only killing. His eyes sharpened. Maybe that's all you know, but not all there is. The assassin turned her face away, but his words lingered in her mind. She had always believed survival was the only truth. Kill or be killed. That was the law of the stars. But here, in this simple cabin, with this strange human, she felt the faintest echo of something else, something she had almost forgotten. Life later. As the fire burned low, the assassin saw the man sitting by the window, staring out into the night sky. His shirt had slipped from his shoulder, and in the dim light she saw scars. Deep, old scars. Not the marks of farming, the marks of war. You were more than a soldier, she said quietly. He didn't turn. We all were more, once. Her heart tightened. He was hiding something. Something larger than scars, larger than war. A secret buried beneath his calm, beneath his silence. The assassin lay back, her blade close at hand, but her mind restless. Who was this man who had saved her? Why risk everything for her when the galaxy wanted her head on a plate? Sleep pulled at her, but her instincts screamed warnings. She didn't trust him. She couldn't, and yet? Her last thought before sleep was not of the hunters, not of the empire, not even of the endless bounty on her name. It was of the human's eyes, calm, sad, unafraid eyes. Of a man who carried secrets deeper than even she could guess. Dawn came slowly, creeping through the cracks of the cabin walls. The forest outside looked quiet, calm, but she knew better. Quiet was never safe. Quiet meant hunters were near. The assassin sat by the window, blade across her lap. Her body still ached from wounds, but her eyes were sharp, scanning every shadow, every bird call, every broken branch. The man moved behind her, setting a kettle on the fire. He seemed calm, almost too calm, as if the world outside wasn't hunting them both. They've found the wreck, she said. He didn't ask how she knew. He just poured water into 2 cups. How long until they come? They're already here, she whispered. And she was right. In orbit, signals pulsed through the void. Mercenaries, bounty hunters, syndicate killers, all drawn by the promise of the reward on her head. The Empire wanted her alive. Everyone else wanted her dead. On the ground, ships cut through the trees, hunters spreading out like wolves. They moved in silence, tracking, scanning, tightening the circle. The galaxy was closing in. The assassin rose to her feet, blade in hand. I leave tonight. If I stay, they'll burn this place down to ash. The man looked at her, steady as always. You won't make it alone. Her eyes narrowed. I don't need you. He stepped closer, his voice calm but unshakable. Maybe not. But you're wounded. You're hunted. You'll bleed out before you get past their line. She hated that he was right. Hated more that he said it without fear. Outside, the forest rustled. Shadows moved between the trees. She tensed, blade ready. But it wasn't the hunters yet. It was silence breaking, the world shifting, the feeling of prey being cornered. She turned to the man. Why are you still here? You could leave, hide, live. He gave a small smile. Bitter but real. I left once before. I'm not leaving again. Something twisted in her chest. This man was no farmer, no simple human living in peace. His secret was heavier than he let show, but whatever it was, it bound him here with her. By nightfall, they saw the first lights in the sky. Patrol ships, scanning beams cutting through the forest. The hunters were sweeping, getting closer with every pass. The assassin's instincts screamed, "Run." But her body refused. Her wounds slowed her. Alone, she would die. The man began to move through the cabin, checking doors, locking shutters, laying out tools. Not weapons, not really, but he handled them like they were. Old traps, spikes, nets strung between trees. Simple human tools. She watched him, puzzled. "You think wooden traps will stop hunters?" "They'll slow them," he said, "and slowing them is enough." His calm unsettled her more than the hunters did. The night deepened. The forest grew darker, colder. And then they heard it, the sound of boots crunching leaves. Voices in the distance, hunters closing in. The assassin crouched near the door, blade tight in her hand. Her heartbeat slowed. The old rhythm of the hunt returned. She was ready to kill. The man stood beside her, holding nothing but his knife and a steady gaze. "You're not afraid?" She whispered. He shook his head. "I've already met fear." It doesn't matter anymore. The first group appeared, their lights cutting across the trees. For hunters' armored rifles glowing in the dark. The assassin shifted to strike, but the man raised a hand. "Wait." She glared at him, furious. "Why?" "Because they don't know we're here yet. Let them think they're the hunters." She hesitated. It went against everything she had learned. Strike first, kill fast, vanish. But something in his eyes held her. They waited. The hunters drew closer, one stepping into the trap he had set. A sharp crack. A rope snapped tight, yanking the soldier into the air. His rifle clattered to the ground. The forest exploded with noise. The assassin moved like a shadow, blade flashing, striking before the others could react. Blood stained the leaves. The man fought not like a soldier, not like an assassin, but like a survivor. Every move was brutal, efficient. His knife cut, his fists struck. His body moved with the weight of someone who had killed before and never forgotten how. When it was over, the forest was silent again. For hunters dead. The trap burned. No sign left behind. The assassin turned to him, her chest rising and falling. For the first time, she looked at him not as a farmer, not as a fool, but as something else. "You've done this before," she said quietly. He met her gaze. His eyes were cold now, sharp as hers. "I told you. I've lost too much." And for the first time, she felt it clearly. His calm was not peace. It was war, buried deep inside him, waiting for the right moment to wake. The farm had never known war. Its fences were built for animals, not soldiers. Its soil had been tilled for food, not blood. But on that night, the quiet land became a battlefield. The assassin stood at the cabin's door, her wounds still aching, her blade sharp and ready. The man walked the land outside, setting traps with calm, steady hands. Ropes, spikes, old barrels filled with fuel. Every tool, a farmer's tool, turned into a weapon. The stars above glowed with the red lights of ships descending. More hunters. More soldiers. The circle was closing. "They'll come in waves," the assassin said, her voice flat. "First scouts. Then killers. Then machines." The man nodded, hammering a spike into the ground. "Then we make them pay for every step." The first wave came with silence. A group of 6 hunters moved through the tall grass, weapons raised, scanning the dark. They expected easy prey. They found fire. The man had poured oil along the outer fence. When the first hunter touched it, a spark turned the field into flames. Shadows danced across the night as the hunters panicked. Blinded by smoke and firelight, the assassin leaped into the chaos, blade flashing silver. She moved like lightning, every strike fast, clean, final. The man fought beside her, slower but brutal, breaking bones, throwing enemies into fire, using the land itself to strike. When the smoke cleared, 6 hunters lay dead. The flames burned low, leaving the air thick with ash. But more lights shone in the sky. More ships. More soldiers. Inside the cabin, the assassin checked her blade. Blood dripped from her side, but her eyes stayed sharp. She turned to the man. "You don't fight like a farmer." He didn't answer. He was loading shells into an old weapon she had never seen before. Human-made, heavy, ancient. His hands moved with the ease of someone who had done this 1,000 times. "Who are you?" she asked again, sharper this time. His eyes lifted to hers, steady, unreadable. "Someone who once swore never to fight again. And yet here you are," she said. "And yet here I am." The second wave came with more fury. This time, armored mercenaries stormed the field, weapons glowing in the dark. Their leader shouted orders, driving them forward with precision. The man lit the fuses he had buried beneath the soil. Small explosions tore through the ground, hurling dirt and fire into the air. The mercenaries scattered. The assassin struck from the shadows, her blade carving through armor. The man shot from the cabin's roof. Every bullet placed with deadly calm. They fought not as strangers anymore, but as 2 halves of a storm. She was the shadow. He was the thunder. Together, they broke the mercenaries, leaving the land soaked in silence again. But silence never lasted above. A larger ship descended, heavy engines shaking the earth. Not scouts, not mercenaries. Soldiers, organized. Equipped, the assassin tightened her grip on the blade. "They'll burn this farm to the ground." The man looked around at the place he had built with his own hands. The fields, the cabin, the quiet life he had chosen. His jaw tightened. "Then we fight until there's nothing left to burn." For the first time, the assassin felt the weight of his loss. This farm wasn't just soil and wood. It was the last piece of his piece. The last piece of the man he used to be, and now, because of her, was being destroyed. The soldiers advanced in formation, shields glowing, rifles ready. This was no longer a hunt. This was war. The assassin and the man stood side by side at the cabin door, 2 figures against an army. She turned her head, eyes narrowing. "You'll die here," she warned. He gave a small smile, tired but fearless. "Then I'll die standing." The battle tore across the farm. Explosions shook the soil, tearing apart fences and fields. Smoke filled the sky. The assassin fought like a phantom, weaving through enemies with speed no soldier could match. The man fought like a wall, every strike brutal, every shot final. But numbers were against them. For every soldier they cut down, more poured from the ship. The ground became a graveyard of fire and blood. The assassin's blade dripped red, her arms trembling, her side burning. The man's weapon smoked, shells spent, his knife slick with blood. Still, they stood. Still. They fought at last. The enemy pulled back. The survivors dragged their wounded to the ship, retreating into the night sky. The assassin leaned against the broken wall of the cabin, breathing hard. The farm was ruined. The fields were ash. The cabin was shattered. The man stood beside her, covered in smoke and blood, his chest rising and falling. "You're insane," she whispered. "Maybe," he said. "But we're still alive." She looked at him, this human, this strange. Broken man who had chosen to fight beside her when the galaxy itself wanted her gone. And for the first time, she realized something terrifying. She did not want to leave him. The farm was gone. Only smoke and ashes remained. The cabin's roof had collapsed. The fields burned black. The air thick with the stench of fire and blood. The assassin stood among the ruins, her blade hanging at her side. She had survived countless battles, but never like this. This was not an empire's war, not a syndicate's trap. This was personal. The galaxy wanted her erased, and now it wanted him too. The man moved slowly through the ruins, silent, collecting what little remained. His face was hard, but his eyes carried something heavier than exhaustion. Something older. She watched him, and finally asked the question that had burned inside her since the first night. "Who are you, really?" He stopped, staring at the broken walls of what was once his home. For a long time, he said nothing. The fire crackled. The night stretched. At last, his voice came low and heavy. "I was a soldier, not the kind who fought for glory. Not the kind who came home to parades. I was sent into battles no one remembers. Wars fought in shadows, wars we were never meant to win. I killed, I survived. And when it was over, I walked away." The assassin's eyes narrowed. Why walk away? He looked at her then, and in his gaze she saw not anger, not pride, but sorrow. "Because I became what they made me. A weapon, just like you." The words struck her like a blade. She wanted to deny it, to spit back in anger, but her silence betrayed her. He had seen through her mask, through the name and legend of Shadowblade. She was a weapon too, forged by war, forged by fear. "You left it behind," she said bitterly. "But you still fight?" "I fight because I have to," he answered. "Not because I want to. That's the difference." The assassin turned away, but her chest felt tight. She had killed thousands, across 100 worlds. She had told herself it was survival, that she had no choice. But hearing him, she felt the cracks in her own armor. For the first time, she wondered, had she ever wanted to live? Or only to kill? Before she could speak again, the night split with sound. Engines heavy. A ship descending, larger than the ones before. Its shadow swallowed the ruins as it landed nearby. The assassin's blood went cold. She knew that ship. She knew its mark. "It's him," she whispered. The man looked at her sharply. "Who?" Her grip tightened on the blade. Her voice was low, filled with old hatred. "The one who made me what I am." The ship's ramp opened. Soldiers marched out first, forming a line. Then came a tall figure in dark armor, his face hidden by a mask of steel. His voice cut through the night, cold and sharp. "Shadowblade," he called. "You ran. You killed. You hid. But you always belonged to me." Her heart pounded, but she forced her voice steady. "I belong to no one." The figure laughed, the sound echoing through the night. "Do you tell him the truth? Do you tell your human friend how many you slaughtered at my command? Or how you begged me for life, and I gave it to you in exchange for blood?" The assassin's hands shook. For years, she had buried that memory. The day she had been broken, remade, turned into the galaxy's perfect killer. He was her master once, and her curse. The man stepped forward, knife in hand, his voice steady. "She owes you nothing." The armored figure tilted his head, amused. "And you? Human. I know you too." The deserter? The soldier who turned his back when the war still needed him. "You carry as much shame as she does." The man's jaw tightened, but his eyes did not waver. Two broken weapons, standing side by side. The assassin felt rage and shame coil inside her. She wanted to deny the armored figure's words, to strike him down. But the truth cut too deep. She had killed because he commanded it. She had obeyed because she was afraid. And now this human, this stranger who had given her shelter, knew. He knew what she was, what she had done. She turned to him, expecting disgust, fear, rejection. But his eyes were steady, calm as always. "You are not his anymore," he said softly. "You are here. Now, with me." Her chest tightened. For years, she had lived as a shadow, but in his words, she felt something she had never known. A choice. The armored figure raised his hand, and soldiers aimed their rifles. "Then die together," he said. The assassin raised her blade. The man lifted his knife. Side by side, they faced the storm. The ruins of the farm glowed red under the burning engines of the warship. Soldiers surrounded the field, weapons raised, their commander standing tall at the front, the man who had once owned the assassin's soul. The assassin's blade shone silver in the firelight. The human's knife gleamed dark in his steady hand. They stood side by side, two figures against an army. The armored commander's voice cut through the smoke. "One last chance, Shadowblade. Return to me, and I may let the human live. Refuse, and you both will die here." For a moment, silence. The assassin's chest tightened. She had spent her life running, hiding, obeying, never choosing. She had always been a weapon, pointed by someone else's hand. But now, for the first time, she felt the weight of choice. She looked at the man beside her. His face was calm, his eyes steady. He gave her a single nod, silent but clear. "Decide who you are." She stepped forward, her voice sharp and steady. "I choose." The commander tilted his head, amused. "And what do you choose, little blade?" Her blade rose, catching the firelight. Her eyes burned with a fury, deeper than fear. "I choose to be free." The commander's hand dropped. Soldiers opened fire. The field erupted with chaos. Blaster fire tore through the smoke. The assassin moved like lightning, weaving through the storm, her blade striking with deadly precision. The human fought with brutal efficiency, using every shadow, every broken wall, every trap left on the ruined land. They fought not as prey, not as fugitives, but as warriors who had nothing left to lose. The commander strode into the chaos, his armored body moving with crushing force. His blade met hers, steel clashing against steel, sparks lighting the battlefield. "You were mine," he roared, driving her back. "Not anymore," she snarled, striking with all the rage of years stolen from her. Beside them, the human fought three soldiers at once, his knife flashing, his fists breaking armor. He bled, but he did not fall. The assassin's duel raged across the field. Every strike was faster, sharper. But the commander was strong, his armor absorbing her blows, his power relentless. At last he struck her down, her blade flying from her hand. She fell to the ground, breathless, beaten. The commander raised his weapon for the final strike. "You will die as nothing," he said. But before the blade could fall, the human stepped between them. His knife met steel. Sparks flew. His arms shook with the weight of the blow, but he did not move aside. "She is not nothing," he said. His voice was low, fierce, unshakable. "She is more dangerous than you ever made her. Because now, she fights for herself." The assassin's chest burned. Her whole life, she had been feared, hated, hunted. But no one had ever believed in her. Not until this man. Not until now. Strength surged through her. She grabbed her blade, rose to her feet, and together they struck. Her blade pierced the commander's armor. His voice broke in shock, his power collapsing as he fell to his knees. The human's final strike drove him to the ground. The master was dead. The battlefield grew silent. The remaining soldiers froze, their commander gone. Some dropped their weapons. Others fled back to the ship, engines roaring as it lifted into the night sky. The assassin stood over the body, her breath sharp, her hands trembling. For years, this man had owned her, broken her, made her a weapon. Now he was nothing but a corpse in the dirt. The human touched her shoulder. She turned to him, her blade still dripping, her eyes burning. What now? She whispered. The farm was gone. The world was broken. The galaxy still wanted her dead. But for the first time, she was not running. For the first time, she was not alone. The man's voice was quiet, steady. Now, we keep moving. Together, she looked at him, this strange, fragile, unbreakable human. The one who had given her shelter when no one else would. Her lips curled, not into a smile, but into something sharper. Determination. Then let them come, she said. Above the stars, fleets still hunted. Armies still searched. Her name still carried fear across the galaxy. But now, the Shadow Blade was no longer just a weapon. She was something far more dangerous. She was free, and she had a human's heart beside her.